Welcome to Check This Out, podcast for kids.
And their grown-ups. We're back with special guest Bonnie for our third mini episode on the presidents of the United States. Thank you for being with us again today. We are going to talk all about third president
Thomas Jefferson.
We're going to take a look at his presidential legacy, the highs, the lows, and his impact. You're going to get a sense of this founding father's beliefs and how his actions as president still impact us today.
I'm excited!
Us too. And to switch things up, we're going to hit you with a few factoids about Thomas Jefferson's time as president right up front.
Let's get into it.
Thomas Jefferson was president from 1801 to 1809. He served 2 terms. He barely won in the election of 1800, but overwhelmingly won his second term.
Whoa!
He was the third president of the United States. He had previously served as vice president to John Adams and Secretary of State to George Washington.
He was a busy guy.
He was a part of the Democratic-Republican political party and was deeply opposed to the Federalist political party. Famous members of the Federalist Party were John Adams and Alexander Hamilton. When Jefferson became president, the nation was still in debt from the Revolutionary War. He focused on reducing the national debt and worked hard to keep the U.S. out of Napoleonic wars that were happening in Europe.
That must have been hard.
One of the big things Jefferson is remembered for is expanding the size of the United States. Do you know what it was called when he doubled the size of the U.S.? Was it A, Manifest Destiny, B, the Louisiana Purchase, or C, the Western Expansion?
Tell us!
If you guessed B, you're right. Jefferson acquired 828,000 square miles of land west of the Mississippi River from France. This deal was known as the Louisiana Purchase. The Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the United States. This was also the basis of future expansion west over the coming decades. In a future episode, we'll talk about Sacagawea and the expedition of Lewis and Clark across the western United States. But Jefferson was who sent these explorers across America with the goal of building maps and finding trade routes.
I want to check out more about that.
It's really interesting and worth learning more about. Do you want to guess how much the U.S. spent to get the 828,000 square miles of land in the Louisiana Purchase? Was it A, 100 million, B, 50 million, or C, 15 million?
Mama, can I guess? I think it's C.
Yes, 15 million. Back then, 15 million was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money today. While the Louisiana Purchase helped expand the U.S.'s natural resources and made us a world power, it displaced huge populations of native indigenous tribes. It also was not technically constitutional, but ended up gaining support because it blocked Spain and France from the United States.
Wow!
Jefferson was born in Virginia in 1743, and he died in 1826. Thomas Jefferson was another Virginia-born plantation owner, like George Washington. And like George Washington, his home is famous and can be visited today as a tourist attraction. Do you know what Thomas Jefferson's plantation home was called? Was it A, Monticello, B, Mount Vernon, or C, Mount Rushmore?
If you think the answer is A, you're correct.
Enslaved laborers grew tobacco, wheat, and other grains as the primary crops at Monticello during Thomas Jefferson's lifetime.
Monticello was huge, and Jefferson designed and redesigned the house for over 40 years. There were a lot of people who lived and worked at Monticello. Jefferson owned over 600 enslaved people who worked the crops and grounds. He actually owned the most enslaved people of any president.
Oh.
Here are 5 more facts about Jefferson outside of his presidency.
Fact number 1.
He was a lawyer in addition to being a politician.
The second is he had 6 children with his wife, Martha.
Fact number 3, he was the primary author of the Declaration of Independence.
4, he served as the governor of Virginia twice.
5, along with Benjamin Franklin, Jefferson served as a U.S. minister to France during the Revolutionary War.
Thomas Jefferson was a founding father, writer of the Declaration of Independence, minister to France, Secretary of State to George Washington, former governor of Virginia, a prolific writer, plantation owner, and our third president.
Although Jefferson didn't love public speaking, he was a gifted writer, and his speeches and musings have become must-reads for historians and students alike. His presidency is best remembered for the Louisiana Purchase. He fundamentally changed the course of United States history with the Louisiana Purchase and his efforts into Western expansion.
The Lewis and Clark expedition from 1804 to 1806. He commissioned Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to explore the newly acquired territory from the Louisiana Purchase. He did this to gather scientific data and establish relationships with the Native American tribes.
Jefferson is also remembered for the reduction of military and national debt. He cut military spending and worked to reduce the national debt while he was president.
The repeal of the Alien and Sedition Acts. Jefferson's administration sought to repeal and reverse these controversial acts that John Adams had signed into law in his presidency.
Thomas Jefferson established the University of Virginia in 1819. Though it was founded after his presidency, he laid the groundwork for this university while he was president.
And in 1807, he enacted the Embargo Act. Jefferson imposed a trade embargo on Britain and France aimed at protecting American ships and sailors. It had significant economic repercussions and faced a lot of criticism.
One of the final things he's remembered for was for his advocacy of religious freedom. Jefferson promoted the separation of church and state. He emphasized tolerance and religious rights.
What was your favorite fact?
And we could keep going, but we promised you a mini episode. So with that, we say farewell.
Thanks for listening.
Make sure to subscribe.
Sources for this week's episode are the White House, Monticello.org, Encyclopedia Britannica, University of California at Santa Barbara, and the Library of Congress.
See you next episode.